Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. In today's video I want to discuss Woody Allen's Match Point from 2005, a movie that was very critical acclaim back in 2005. I will talk about this movie in specific details, so if you haven't seen the movie, please do before watching this review and come back later, just so you know I'm going to spoil this movie. My experience with Match Point is a bit interesting because I watched it like I think six or 7 years ago for the first time, and I did not care that much for it, to be honest. It was not that I thought it was a bad movie, but because I've read reviews of it and read that it was a very sexy and erotic and very thrilling movie, I sort of expected more. I remember feeling actually a bit bored while I was watching it back in the days. But to be honest, back then I wasn't totally into Woody Allen yet, so I didn't know a lot about him as a director, and I haven't seen a lot of his movies, and that I have done afterwards. So a couple of days ago I wanted to rewatch it, and I did. And my experience with Match Point was certainly much better. I actually think it is a pretty good movie, to be honest, and because I have watched a lot of other Woody Allen movies, I sort of understand his ideas behind it a bit more, a bit clearly, and yeah, it was pretty good. But I still have some, but to be honest, I still don't think it's great, and I will get into that point a bit later in the video. But starting off a bit about the plot, which I sort of like, especially in the beginning. Jonathan Rhys Meyers, the former, he plays a former tennis player who sort of starting to become like a teacher for tennis, and he then starts falling in love or get a flirtation into a woman into a wealthy family. But soon after they starting a relationship, he starts becoming very turned on by his brother-in-law's fiance. Is that what it's called? It's played by Scarlett Johansson. And after some time, they start having a very dirty affair. And yeah, to be honest, when we rewatched it, I really liked the beginning, or maybe like the first 50 minutes or so. I think it was really well handled, very well written, like Woody Allen. Woody Allen is always really great on dialogue, and this especially has great dialogue in the opening. I also really like Jonathan Rhys Meyers' performance. I think he really plays this character with this sort of you especially in the beginning. If you haven't seen the movie, you're sort of insecure about him because he has sort of a dark charm about him, and but you don't really know which way he goes. He's unpredictable, and I think Jonathan Rhys Meyers plays him in that way very well, and there's some good flirtation between him and Scarlett Johansson in the beginning. That is kind of it's funny, and it's also it's where the movie is perfectly in the sort of balance between being a bit of a sort of, what should I call it, a bit, still has a bit of humor to it, and I also have these great erotic elements. So yeah, I really liked the first hour or so, and a lot of the actors. But now I will go into more specific about some things I don't care that much about, and that's about the affair between Jonathan Rhys Meyers and Scarlett Johansson. through the movie, she starts. She is engaged with Matthew Good's character, but they suddenly, an hour into the movie, they stop the engagement. He doesn't want her anymore, and after that, and I still remember. I remember that also for the first time when I watched it years ago. I suddenly just don't care that much about then Jonathan Rhys Meyers' affair to Scarlett Johansson's character. I feel it becomes a bit ordinary, and they're sort of repeating itself. They're just having this affair, but I just don't care that much for that. After I don't, it's difficult to explain, but I think it is best when they sort of are in the. It works. It's much more suspenseful, and it's much more interesting and a bit more. How should I put it? I don't know what the right word, but I found in the first hour or so it's very well handled. But I just think it repeats itself. They're just having sex or every time they meet, and I don't think they explore the characters that more. And I think the middle half, it starts to become, I wouldn't say boring, but I don't think it's that exciting. And then they and then there's these elements of that he can't get children with his wife, but he of course is. But of course, when he has the affair with Scarlett Johansson, she becomes pregnant, and then I don't know why, but the movie, I don't care about that element. I think it takes so long to sort of get to what it wants, and I think it has some pacing issues here in the middle. And here I must also say, Scarlett Johansson's performance, I think she worked. I have never really been. She's pretty, and she's good when she has her flirtations elements with Jonathan Rhys Meyers in the beginning. But when she starts becoming pregnant and she sort of gets, I think she gets too over the top. Her performance, I don't like her performance when she screams. I don't think she's that great of an actress, to be honest. I know she's very popular, and I don't mind her, but when she starts trying to be serious, I simply don't get into her performance, and I start losing interest in again here in the middle half. And I feel like the movie, it's too long to get what it wants to do. How should I say it? It takes too long to come to the end where Jonathan Rhys Meyers decides that he can't have children with Scarlett Johansson, and he can't leave his wife. So he decides to kill Scarlett Johansson and her neighbor, I think it was, so he can get he can get away on it. He starts to have this murder plan. And now I will talk some positive thing about again. The murder scene itself in this movie is really well handled, I think. It's incredible, well made and edited together with this sort of music. And Woody Allen is very smart at choosing music for his movies in general. And I think that scene is the most suspenseful in the whole movie. It's very and Woody Allen becomes. It's a great scene, and I think the scene should have come before, because I think it has the movie has lost its momentum. But the scene itself is great, and I really like how it is executed, and it is really cinematic scene. Woody Allen is mostly used for his dialogue scenes, but he could in other movies as well. He's actually also good at sort of show don't tell visual storytelling. He is actually good at this, and he's also done some other sort of thrillers, not so good thrillers, but it has its moments. For example, Irrational Man from 2015 and Manhattan Murder Mysteries from, I think it's the early 90s, and these movies also have its moments, but especially when there's sort of the murders sort of. There's some suspenseful moments in them as well, where Woody Allen is really great and structuring scenes. But these movies are not the best, I must admit. But Match Point, it has a great murder scene, really well handled. But then afterwards, he's of course Jonathan. He does the murder, kills two, and he gets away with it. And I sort of like the end that he gets away with the whole thing. It's sort of like twisting. It's a great twist that he gets away. It's not like he's not punished. And even though there is this sort of element, sort of reference to crime and punishment, I sort of, and here Woody Allen reference that book as well in Irrational Man, if I remember correctly, and sort of, but what I like the sort of idea that he gets away in the end. It's sort of, it's a dark ending, and it's one of the more darker Woody Allen endings. But I again, I'm not totally convinced about the whole idea that the police is not investigating him a bit more, because I felt it's too short. It's sort of like, I wish the movie could have been 2 hours long like it is, but I think it should have stopped the affair a bit earlier, and they should have gone to the murder plan, and then you could have a bit more of the investigation of the murder scene itself in the end, because I think it ends too quickly. It's just the movie also deals a lot about the idea with luck. Some people are incredibly lucky in life, and some people are unlucky. And this guy who's a nasty fellow, he sort of gets away with all the crime he does. And I sort of like the idea, but I still think they could have developed the sort of how he gets away with it. I sort of like, it's sort of just explained that what was it, that he throws some stuffs away from the murder scenes, or some jewelry or something, and then some criminal guy or something like that gets it, and then the police thinks, oh, it's him. So then Jonathan Rhys Meyers can't have done the murder. I don't know what I feel about that. But I do like the idea that he gets away in the end, don't get me wrong. But it's just, I think, like I said, the first hour or so, really well handled by Woody Allen. The last hour has great moments, have good scenes. It's not bad, but it is not totally it's not, what's the right word? It isn't. I don't think it's great. The last hour, I think you can have developed some elements, explore some ideas a bit better. The whole idea about luck, Woody Allen should have explored that idea a bit more, instead of just keeping going this affair and keep going. She calls, Scarlett Johansson keeps calling him, and she, now you have to leave your wife, and he says, oh, the next day. It goes on and on, and I really don't care that much for the middle part. But it is a well-made and good movie, I think, and it is the sort of, and I do sort of understand some of Woody Allen's ideas behind it. Sort of, if I have to give it a rate from 1 to 10, I would sort of give it, I think I will give it 7 out of 10 stars. It is a good movie, and I would recommend it. And like I said, it's a movie I want to see again sometimes in the future. Maybe I will be even more positive about it. But right now, I only think it's a good movie, but I still think it could have been much better. And I don't understand people who say it is Woody Allen's masterpiece. I don't think that. I think he has done better works, and I sort of feel like, even though he explores ideas about crime in other movies as well, but I'm not so keen on. I think I like him best when he tries to be funny. He makes funny scenes, and not so much about the darker sides. I don't think he's an expert in that, but okay, he tries, and it is probably his best sort of attempt to explore these ideas. I want to nitpick a bit about the movie again. There's also sort of a dream scenes where you sort of have Jonathan Rhys Meyers, and he sort of talks to Scarlett Johansson and the older woman who is murdered, and it's like the idea of why you do it, and you wouldn't get away with it, and they sort of have to justify why he did it. I don't know really what I think about that scene. I found it a bit too much in your face. If I was an editor on that movie, I would have cut that scene, and I really don't care about it. I was also confused about if is it Jonathan Rhys Meyers who dreams about that scene, or is it the cop who dreams about it? Because the cop who is investigating the murder scene, he wakes up afterwards and says suddenly, "No, I know how he did it," and I'm like, yeah, but it's just very confusing. And I remember that scene also from when I watched it like 6 years ago. And I don't care about these scenes. I think the movie tries to be realistic, and that scene is totally useless in my opinion. But anyway, Match Point is a good movie, and if you haven't seen it, I would if you haven't seen it, then you wouldn't watch the whole review. So now I'm stupid. But anyway, let me know in the comments what you think of Match Point. I'm very curious about it. Yeah, and even if you disagree with my opinions, it's totally fair. I'm curious to know what you sort of think about it, both positive and negatives. And once again, thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you all will have a very great day. Bye.